Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me today in the Locker Room. I'm Alan Locher. The three actresses I'm about to bring out all met for the very first time when they made their daytime television debut on ABC's The Edge of Night. Terry Davis played April Cavanaugh Scott. Frances Fisher played Detective Deborah Saxon, and Sharon Gabet played Raven Whitney. These three, also known as Edge's Angels to the fans, have remained friends for over 4 decades, and I want to thank Sharon for getting them all together here to reunite. I didn't watch Edge personally, but I sure do remember Frances from her time playing another Saxon, Suzette Saxon, on Guiding Light. It is my distinct pleasure to welcome the three ladies here to the Locker Room: Terry Davis, Frances Fisher, and Sharon Gabet. Oh, hi there.
You're très French, Rosie. Très French.
How do you pronounce it, Sharon?
You know,
Gabet.
that's the correct pronunciation, but in Indiana, it's Gabet, and it was Gabby Gabet.
That's so funny.
I like Gabet.
I do too.
Hey, before we start, I just have to tell this story because I'm just so grateful that actually we're all here, because a couple of years ago, my oldest child, Jasmine Joshua, who is the artistic director and founder of a Reboot theater company in Seattle, asked the three of us to come on and talk about our time in New York during her fundraiser. And you know, my dear friends, okay, we'll do it. And so I get on that morning. This is like 2 years ago, and I, press the button, the link, and I'm sorry, but it was more than one button. You just had to keep pressing buttons to get on it. I finally got on, and no one else is on. And Jasmine and I are talking, and no one's on. Pretty soon, I get a call from Terry. I can't get on. So I said, FaceTime me. So she FaceTimed me, and now I got her on the phone, and we're talking. So Terry, yes. And then, and then pretty soon Frances FaceTimes me, and I can see Frances on my computer, but I don't have another phone. So we can't see Frances, but we can hear her. So there's, I'm going like this, and Frances is trying to talk. And then finally Terry said, wait, everybody, please, Jasmine, you have to realize you have invited 3 senior citizens at the same time to come on your show. So, this is what happens.
Well, you're all in the same room today, and everybody can see you. And like I said, backstage, I know the fans are really, really excited. So can we go back those 4 decades? Do you remember, these parts coming up and hearing about them for the first time? And were any of you, did you know what a soap opera was at the time? I know most of you did theater. Frances, do you remember the role of Deborah coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. My history was, I was doing theater at the time, and I was working with a couple of agents at the same time, going out on auditions. And this one agent said, hey, I've got an audition for a soap opera. I went, wow. And he goes, yeah, that would be steady work. Wow. So I went into the audition, and Louis Turenne, who played my father, was actually in the room. That was back in the day when you actually auditioned with another actor. And I went into the room, and I just looked at him. I went, Daddy. And he went, Deborah. We did the scene. It was wonderful. And before I got back home to my apartment, they had already left a message on my answering machine. I am. And I got the part. It was the easiest thing I'd ever done. I thought, my career is going to just be flying if this is all I have to do is go into a room and sparkle.
Say daddy.
Say daddy, yeah.
Oh, yeah. That works sometimes.
Daddy, that one word works. Did you have any idea how hard a soap opera was?
Was it? No, I had a ball. I remember just having a ball. We had our own dressing rooms. We did our own
Oh,
makeup
wow.
and just, got touched up. But what was great about doing Edge of Night is we shot it like a play. So everybody was on the set and everybody would watch everybody else's scenes. So we really had a company there, and we were very, very close to our crew too. And we would just go around from set to set, the cameras would move and we'd watch each other's scenes. So it was as if we were doing a play, as opposed to now where they just shoot set by set and you don't know any of the other cast members unless you're actually working on stage with them.
Mm-hmm.
And Terry, do you remember, hearing about the part of April and your audition?
I remember my audition. I remember what I wore on that audition.
Wow.
And
she's showing
the
off.
husband that I have been married to now for how many years? 40 something years, was the director in the room at that time. So I did sleep with the director, and I got the part.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah. But the interesting thing is, what I do remember, I remember the audition, but I remember very shortly thereafter getting the role of April, that I was also called in to audition for Farrah Fawcett's replacement on Charlie's Angels.
Oh, wow.
And I turned it down. I said,
I didn't know
I've just gotten
that.
the job, So I do remember that. I just didn't go in for it. And the rest is history in my life.
Well, the rest is history, because not only the three of you became friends,
Yes.
and your husband.
Yes.
That might not have happened if you went for Cheryl Ladd's, and gotten that role.
Yeah.
That's crazy. And
Well,
Sharon, for you?
So these two were on already. So I was lucky in that I kind of walked in. And you have to remember that this is like 1975, 76. You guys a little earlier. I think I got it in 75. So we're 25 years old.
76. So you came in 76, I guess. Right?
You're right. I came in 77. That's right.
77.
See, here we go.
I have no idea.
So we were 25 years old, 25, 26 years old in New York City in the mid 70s, when the city was bankrupt and everything was funky and bohemian and cheap. And here we are, these young, mid 20s, getting these parts where we probably were in the 1% of actors, in the city at that time. And then we all meet. And so there was the Edge of Night and everything that happened there. I mean, it was as Frances said, a very special place to work and meet. As she described the way we shot it, it was a ballet to watch, because it was a 3-camera system and everyone was in the circle and the cameras would be choreographed. There would be 2 cameras here, one over there, and then at a certain point in the scene, the other would fly over to the other side of the room to set up. And it was just this beautiful ballet. And you'd do your scene, then you'd watch everyone else's scene. Then they'd come back to your third act. So it wasn't like you did all your scenes at the same time. It was just a beautiful, beautiful ballet to be a part of, and really encouraged us all to be friends. So I just remember that
45 years ago. 45 years ago. Oh my God.
It's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
And to be that, you've remained that close. That's really special, and I don't know if you all realize, but, daytime fans, when you're in their living room 5 days a week, you do make a connection and they follow your careers for a long time and they consider you family. But the three of you are family.
Yeah, we are.
That's true.
Yeah.
So
We're all grandmas now.
Very much so.
And we're all grandmas.
That's
Terry's
awesome.
got 5 grandchildren. I have
Wow.
2 because my daughter twins, and Frances has 1.
Yeah.
So all I remember about getting on the edge was that I came to New York and didn't leave my apartment for 2 weeks. I was so terrified. I just would go to the corner deli to get a sandwich and beer and then go back up, and I read the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy again before.
Because you were
like,
frightened of New York
Frodo.
City?
I was so frightened of New York City. I mean, I'm a Indiana farm girl. And so I finally, the money thing came up. So I had to go out. So, I went and hustled, waitress, whatever you had to do. And I did some nursing because I had my nursing license, which was in New York City, a nightmare. But then, we get our agents. You have to do theater for free. But here in New York at that time, like Frances said, it was easy. They did make it easy for new actors. It was very exciting to be at New York at that time because you had a whole system of showcases where you worked for free. And the hardest thing was just getting into the audition because there'd be 6,000 people there at 9 o'clock in the morning when you showed up. And then you got in a play, and then you got an agent to come see you, and you get an agent, and then the agent would send you out, usually for soaps first or commercials. And there was this whole system that we had. And you could read, what was it? What were the two trades, backstage and show business? Remember the trades? And you could see in the trades every single little showcase that was going on and where it was auditioning for and everything. It was all set up. So I did 3 showcases. I got my agent with the 3rd showcase. And then my agent set me up for 2 soaps right away. I don't remember what they were, but I didn't get them. I was too nervous, but I learned. And the 3rd one was Raven. And this was all within my 1st year in New York. And so I went in and auditioned with John Driver. Like you said, the actors that you worked with were there to audition with you. And here's where the crew, because I'll never forget. I mean, I was terrified, but I did good. I knew I did well because as I walked off, Butch and Glace.
Oh yeah, Butch worked on Guiding Light.
He did.
Butchie, yes, he did. He whispered to me as I walked off, "You got it, baby." And that helped so much. And I think I found out that evening or the next day too. They were very fast. And then I just felt like family.
Do you remember the name Bud Goen?
Yes. Buddy,
are you kidding?
Oh my God, Bud.
His daughter is watching right now.
Oh
she
my
said
goodness.
Christine said my father was the associate producer.
Yes, he was.
Buddy and Nick every night, every day after tape, they were off to that bar. What was the name of that bar? You could always find Nick and.
But we joined him often.
Yes, we did.
Where did Edge tape?
44th between 3rd
Second and third.
Second and third.
Yep.
EUE Screen Gems.
Yeah. Guiding Light had moved there, but sadly they tore that down. It's now an apartment building.
Do you know something funny? This goes back so many years. I can remember Tony Craig and I after the show because we didn't really, this was even before we could tape, we had videotapes. We used to go to the Sears across the street and go to the television department in Sears and watch the show.
Yes, I remember that.
If there was a particular episode you wanted to see.
Oh
8-track.
No, it wasn't an 8-track. That's what
VHS.
VHS.
The beta
VHS tapes.
Yeah, or the Betamax.
Because
the great thing about doing a soap though is because you could actually go and watch your work to see if what you did that's the only way you could see it is like to go home and watch it or at Sears or whatever and see if what you did worked, to see if you could improve the next time and if a choice was right or not. And it was a great tool for learning, actually.
I was so nervous when I started. I remember Joel Crothers said to me years later, "Sharon Rose, I didn't think you were going to make it. I I shook. And
I
can
remember.
you know,
I remember how nervous you were.
I was so nervous, and they did not stop tape. That's what made you nervous. You know, this was not like, oh, let me do it again. No, you in that show, that not stopping tape meant saving money on editing, and it had a cheap budget. So I can remember watching shows to learn, and seeing how I would walk into a set, knock a lamp over, hold it, and then go on to do my scene and see the lamp in the background kind of going like this. You know, it's like
The only time they would stop tape is if a boom shadow went in your face. That was the only time.
in the face. That was it.
Otherwise, you just had to keep going. So, like I said before, it's like a play. You had one time to do it. You couldn't go back and go, I want to try that again. You just had to go with it.
And
Alan, you asked earlier about, you know, if it was difficult. And, you know, I think as much fun as we were having, the scripts were about 40 some odd pages. And depending upon what you were doing and how many times a week you were working, that could be a daunting amount of material to attempt to memorize. And I will say that some of us did little cheat sheets around the set with tape. I would tape, you know, important things, knowing I was going to be over here. Okay, this is this, and something else over someplace else on the set, just in case. Because we did have teleprompters, but the teleprompter
never worked.
Do you remember the guy with the teleprompter? And it would be different dialogue. I couldn't believe, and it was on. You want to talk about ancient equipment? This was like a roller derby thing that rolled, and he would do it. He would manually do this teleprompter. It was hysterical.
The old crank.
Yes.
What do you think?
On the right page. It was never on the right line.
Yeah.
Edge was all of your first real, first television major part. What do you think you learned that you took with you for the rest of your career from Edge of Night?
You know, I'll say something there about I learned how I learn, you know, and you talk about memorization. And to this day, I do very similar things. Well, first of all, I would learn my lines by covering my ears and hearing myself say them. But then I always had little tricks. I would find my tricks, and this was my 4W speech. This was my ABCD speech. This is, you know, and I make connections that trigger my mind into what's coming next. And that's just in terms of the memorization process, and then the, you know, filling. I think we all became our characters, so we were able to, or I was able to come from my own being, so to speak. When you're working on a play, you can often have a tremendous amount of luxury time to become that character, to learn that character from the inside out. I think one of the luxuries of soaps is doing it on an ongoing basis, that some things ultimately become so automatic and personal that, you know, it balances with other things. I mean, everyone knows that Sharon was Raven.
Yeah. Read my book, you'll find out otherwise.
Yeah. It's out in paperback now.
I was waiting for you to plug it.
I will plug it later. And Francis, for you, what do you think you took?
I don't remember it, so long ago. All I can, somebody sent me a scene. I don't know where I saw it, on Twitter or something like that. And I watched it and I thought, God, I talk so fast. I can't talk fast anymore. It's like, man, I just like spitting those lines out. It's like, you go, girl. You know,
remember the notes we used to get from John Sedgwick? There were two major notes on soap operas. One of them was, if you can't make it good, make it fast.
Yeah.
In other words,
And then he would say,
right?
acting is reacting. I go,
And
Act-
I just spoke to his daughter yesterday, Joanne.
You did.
there,
I did, yeah, because she worked on Guiding Light. I was asking her something. That's so funny.
I've seen them.
and the
I've
other
seen them
one,
both
the
out
other one
here in
that Sedgwick
California.
would.
The Sedgwicks. I'm in touch with the Sedgwicks here.
Oh, nice.
Yes, and I
Yeah.
saw them at a graduation party a couple of years ago. It was so sweet.
Rosie, you said
The
there
other
was a
one-
second thing you learned.
Yes, the other one that John Sedgwick would always say was here's another great thing about the Edge that you didn't get to do, and you can't do really in any other profession. But the writers, Henry Susser especially, and his team understood that, look, they're putting out a script a day. I mean, that's, a huge script for all these characters every day, and they know they're not writing Shakespeare every day. So The Edge of Night, because it was a half an hour show, we were done by 3:00. We had a day, 2:30, 3:00, we're out of there. So, but if you were on the next day, then we would all meet in the green room and we would read the
That's right.
next day script in order to get a timing of it. And then if it was long, you could just say, can we cut this? Can we cut that? And everyone got to cut. Or if you could say, you know what, I can't say this. Can I say it this way? And then you were allowed to literally change the dialogue. And Nick was always there, the producer, to oversee the whole thing, but he was very open about it. So you got a chance to like really work the dialogue the way to cut things. So, but if the show was long anyway, which many times, well, if it was short, you would see the yes,
Stretch. Yeah.
stretch. Let's see. And then if it was short, long, Sedgwick would come. Well, you might get this, but Sedgwick would come, and his note would be louder and faster.
Well, you know what?
Note?
I actually, one of the things I took away from it is like I would know inherently if I could cut 3 seconds off of a scene. And literally, they would say,
Yes.
we need 3 seconds off of this scene. We need 17 seconds off of that. And somehow we learned how to do that. It just became instinctive. Didn't have to look at a watch or anything like that. We just knew.
Absolutely.
It up. Yeah.
Did your stories cross? I mean, first, do you remember meeting as ladies and actresses, and did you hit it off immediately?
Immediately.
We had lots of parties, man. After work with
Francis had
What was the bar
a
near
loft
Edge of
in
Night?
Soho.
What was the bar near Edge of Night? Because when Guiding Light was there, it was called Turtle Bay. Was it Turtle Bay back then?
No, it was something else. I was trying to think of it last night, and I can't think of it. But there was one. But Francis had an incredible loft in Soho. A loft in Soho, and it was her and her boyfriend at the time, Jerry, who was an incredible artist. It was just a playpen.
I was just going to say a party palace.
We had a playpen in the
and
living.
there would be costume trunks, and we would go and cook food and put on costumes and do scenes and sing and play. It was just the most incredible. And we would have these parties where there'd just be like a roast turkey in the middle of the table, and then were they champagne caviar parties? We had champagne caviar parties, right?
And Jerry was a photographer, so we were always taking pictures. Always.
Yeah.
My favorite photographs of myself and my husband were taken by Jerry. They're hanging up in my house. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
He was an incredible, he was the kind of person that just, you just so freely opened up with him, and we would dance and take pictures and dress up. And I remember being in the dark room with Jerry doing the, printing the photographs and going through all that. It was a really wonderful
creative
time.
Incredibly creative time. It really was. I have one story about us playing together. which is how Frances got her nickname from our little group. And so, I mean, we would go out a lot and do things. And so I don't know where we went, but we ended up at my apartment and you guys were going to spend the night. And we were drunk. I mean, drunk. And it was one of those nights where I just remember Terry in the bathroom crying over something. She not sitting on the toilet and crying. I mean, the lid was down. But
Thank you, Rosie.
Thanks for pointing that
crying
out.
over something. And God knows what Frances and I mean, we were just blasted. And I just remember that I owed Frances money for something, whether it was for the booze that we bought that night or what. And so I wanted to write a check to her so I wouldn't forget it in the morning. And I wrote this check slobbering. We all passed out. God only knows what we looked like that the next morning. And Frances goes to get her check to put it in her purse, and she looks at it. She bursts out laughing and shows it to me. I had written down to Fracas Fisher. Fracas Fisher. And if ever there was a fracas when the three of us together, it was Frances that started it. Always. So that became her nickname, Fracas. And still, one of my favorite names that we call her today. She's Fracas.
I love that. And before this, crazy pandemic hit, would you get together?
Yeah.
Often out in California?
Oh, yeah. Whenever
you mean
we
now?
could.
Whenever.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I love that. That's
We got together a lot, and I just moved back to Southern California in 2019. So that I was up in Northern California, and they still came up and visited me, and I came down. But it was like, you know what, I need to go back because my best friends are there, and I just need to go back there. And then the pandemic hit, so really we haven't seen each other
Since the pandemic.
The pandemic.
Well, technology helps.
We FaceTime.
Yes,
Yeah.
we FaceTime, definitely.
If there was time for technology to work, it's during this, so you could see your family and friends and your grandchildren, I'm sure.
Well, I get to see them in person. My two daughters are close, and we've been helping the kids out, and I've gotten both of my vaccines, my husband and I, and one of my daughters and husband. So yeah, we're careful, but that's our bubble,
That's great.
Thank God. And they need us.
And we've supported each other.
Yeah.
All three of us have supported each other in every respect for over 40 years.
Yeah.
Terry has saved my life a number of times. Frances, here's a story that I will never forget. I had moved in 1993 from New York to California, and the next 4 years were just one thing after another. My youngest brother died tragically. Then 10 months later, my father passed away. My daughter was diagnosed with autism. My marriage was breaking up. I mean, it was a rough time, and my dad died. And I have 3 kids, and one of them special needs. And my husband was in LA all the time, either working or looking for work. So I'm there, and I need my beloved, my dear, dear father, who I adored, has gone. And so everyone's they called me, and we're talking, and I'm telling them I don't know what to do. And Frances this is like always happens with these two. There's no talk about it, no discussion. It's like they're there. Frances said, "Get yourself a ticket." And the next thing I knew, she sent her nanny. She sent her nanny in a car to my house for 3 days to take care of my children so I could go. You don't even remember. See, it was just the natural thing to do.
But that's what friends, it is. She doesn't remember because it is.
I'll never forget that.
That's
wow,
beautiful.
I'll never forget that as long as I live.
Well, so I know, Frances, your daughter has followed in your footsteps. Terry and Sharon, your other children, have they followed in the acting? No desire?
My older daughter actually was following in my husband's footsteps when she first graduated from college. And Andrew Wayman went from directing soaps to directing sitcoms. And when my daughter graduated, she became a PA, and she was working on shows with my husband. And when that show ended, she called his agent looking for a job. And but the truth is, she had known him since she was a little girl, so this is, growing up with these people. And she ended up working within his agency for several years, and then got a job with the VP of comedy development at one of the networks, and was making six figures, and was so unhappy that she left that job finally after a year or so, took a job as an assistant teacher in a special needs school for like $12 an hour, and got her master's degree in education, became a teacher, and then an administrator. So, I mean,
wow.
And my other daughter, no.
And I will have to get back to Edge and some of the people you worked with. But as I'm speaking about your children, Francis, in Fargo, you and your daughter played the same part, right? You got to work with her, but you didn't act with her. But you played the part as your agent.
What happened is that she was offered the part, and I think it was the casting person who said, what would be really nice is if you could talk your mother into playing the older you. I think that's how it went down. So my agent sent me the script, of course, and I get to work with Carrie. My God. And so that was fun. And of course, I wasn't, we didn't work together, but I was on the set when she worked. Just to watch her. And the thing that was really interesting to me, because I had shot my stuff already, and then I went to watch her shoot her stuff. And there was one physical gesture that we both did, and neither of us knew the other one did. That it was like, because it was very short, she had the lead and I was just like a couple of scenes, but there was a physical gesture that we both did that made me realize we are the same person.
And that was a great season. Carrie was amazing in that season. That was a great season. But what's it like watching your daughter? Is it amazing?
Thank God she's got talent. She's
well, you are a proud mama, because you set up for one of her films. You set up a movie party. And there must have been about 20 of us who went one afternoon on Wilshire Boulevard to go watch her film and enjoy it. She was wonderful.
Yeah. 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 Awesome. She's this new generation. I mean, she, and Alex, the father of her son, are both actors, and they have a whole setup in one of the rooms of their house. The curtain, and behind the curtain is all the costumes, and then the big ring light, and they do self-tapes because of the pandemic.
That's everything, yeah.
But I got to tell you, the kids today, they don't mind it. I thought it was a pain in the butt to have to like self-tape. You got to produce it yourself. You got to edit it, blah, blah, blah. But the kids doing it today, they have control. And they can send in a finished product that is so much better than going into a room with bad overhead light and reading with a casting director who never looks up, So, yeah.
And in LA, you don't have to get in your car and drive an hour to the audition and then try to find a place to park and then sit around with all these other people who are auditioning for the same role you are. And, so there's I had an audition. I got home one day and looked at my emails and found out I had a commercial audition that was due at 4:00, and it was 2:30. And I called my agent. I said, I can't do this. And she goes, well, try. And I swear to God, I did something with my hair. I put on a little makeup. I changed my shirt. I had my husband, I gave him my phone. I did it on my phone. And we turned in a little product. And it was like an hour. I never, ever, ever could have done that. If I had to go, if I had to, anywhere in LA, you're in the car an hour, just about.
Yeah.
So there's it's becoming, I'm seeing the ease in some of this. That's kind of nice.
Well, the upside of this pandemic is about being able to have meetings constantly. I'm always on a Zoom doing something, but it's saving a lot of money and a lot of time. And I don't have pants.
Just from here up. Well, let's talk because the fans
don't stand up.
Yeah, don't stand up. Sweet. Let's talk about some of your co-stars. I know, Francis, a lot of the fans were asking memories of Kim Hunter working with Kim.
I got to tell you, when I heard that Kim Hunter was going to be on our show, oh my God. And I got to play, she played a bad guy, a bad gal. And she was so good. She was just,
she was
wonderful. And I'm thinking now also of Holland Taylor was on.
Oh, yes.
Terry was convicted, accused of murdering her, right, Terry? I think April was.
April?
Denise?
Is that who I murdered?
Did April?
I don't remember.
Denise, I think April was falsely tried and convicted for the murder of Denise, played by Holland.
Are we still, there I am.
Yeah, there you are.
I remember going to prison and escaping prison, but I don't remember who I was supposed to have killed.
I think it was Holland Taylor.
Everybody's frozen.
We're here. Francis, what you were mentioning Holland.
I worked with Julianne Moore.
Oh, was Julianne on Edge before Aslan Returns? Oh, I didn't realize.
And then also Elaine Stritch, which was incredible too. Elaine Stritch was incredible. I had so much fun working with her.
Well, and it's so interesting because, Francis, you played a detective. You were saying that it was 1976, which is the year that Charlie's Angels debuted. And here you are playing a detective on ABC's Edge of Night.
I really never said anything to Henry, but the role that I auditioned for was a spoiled little rich brat. And I loved playing that character. And Louis Turenne was my husband. Listen to that. My father. And then they just made a complete turn, and Louis's right-hand man, I can't remember the actor's name now, he raped me. And I had to play at the aftermath of a rape. And then because of that, and because my father was such a crook to write the Saxon name, I became a detective. And it's like, really? I want to play that spoiled little rich girl. What happened to that character?
That's a lot more fun.
Yeah. But I guess it was okay.
What were you going to say, Sharon?
Well, I was just thinking of you playing Detective Saxon. You did make her edgy. Remember when you got your hair cut and they practically had a fit?
Do you remember what Nick said to me? He said Farrah Fawcett would never go on vacation and cut her hair. This is the story. I had really pretty red hair, and it was up and down. And then I got a permanent. Then Jerry gave me a permanent. Remember that? It was like this red afro. It was.
We all did that.
But then. I had a couple of weeks off. So Jerry, who was of Syrian descent, and his mother, Anne. Remember Anne? Oh,
yes.
I love her so much. Anne and Jerry and I went to Syria to go back.
I remember that.
And with that hair in the desert, I said, we got to cut it off. And so we cut it off really, really short. And I wasn't even thinking that I had to go back to Edge of Night in 2 weeks. With
fracas.
Fracas. That's when Nick said, Farrah Fawcett would never even work again if she cut her hair. It's all about her hair. I should fire you.
Well,
He did. He did say that.
Can you guys hear me now or see me?
We can. Yep.
Did you
We
lose
can.
me there
Yeah.
for a while? Because
We did. You froze.
That's
froze.
Malibu. That's Malibu. I did the same thing. I went to go get a haircut, and I had, I don't know, I had long hair, and I decided while I was in the chair that I decided I was going to get a perm. So I not only got my hair cut, I got this tight perm. And I showed up the next day, which was the same day, you know, on the show as the day before, with a totally different haircut. And I was in prison at the time. So
That's great.
that's what it's like being in your 20s, you know?
Yes.
You just didn't think about that. And it was the same
I've
thing.
been,
What the hell were you thinking? I wanted to change.
On my Facebook page, page, Sharon Rose Gabet, we've been watching for the last 5 years all the old edge tapes that we still have. And my friend Norm Fisher has been posting them on Mr. Edge 80s on YouTube. So we've been watching them and watching our hair, you know, change over the course of the years we were on. Yes, there it is. Oh my God, it's so beautiful.
Wow.
She looked fantastic, but they were horrified. Yeah. I cut my hair once too, and Nick came and knocked on the door and said, people are calling in wanting to know why they recast Raven.
And one of our fans said it was Bo who raped Deborah.
Bo, yes.
Bo.
Bo.
And one of our fans, Matthew, was asking whatever happened to Denny Albee, who played. Does anybody know?
No, I don't know. But look at that good looking guy.
Yeah,
there's Denny.
I know that when I was on Another World, they were auditioning for Peter Love, who was going to marry Brittany, and they had 3 people, and Denny Albee was one of them to audition. But it was Donna Love who was very dark brunette hair, and Denny, of course, is this gorgeous blue-eyed blonde. So he really wasn't right, but I did push for him. But I know he was kind of a farmer at heart. He had this property with horses and stuff, and I don't know if he ended up there.
Sharon, one of the fans was asking when you left in September of '79, did you know you were coming back 5 months later?
No, I did not. You know, like I had been on 2 years. I just worked an average of 2 days a week. Terry was the star at the time, really, her and Draper and Miles. And, you know, I had been raised on the theater, and Frances and I got into the actor's studio, and, you know, I was like, I want to go out and try something else.
You remember that story?
Yes.
I helped her. No, she helped me with it was my audition. Right, to get into the actor's studio because
we both got right.
But you were helping me, and guess who got in? Sharon, and I didn't. Remember that?
So then we did it again, only we reversed the parts, and you played the part I was playing, and then you got in.
Yeah.
Wow. So anyway, I studied in New York. I studied in New York took dance classes and voice lessons and auditioned and almost got in as a understudy to a couple Broadway shows. I almost got a movie. And then, you know, just when I was running out of money about 5 months later, I remember looking like, man, I've only got like a month's rent left. And Nick called me. This is the grace that has been in my life. Nick called me out of the blue and said, we want you back. And let's do it without an agent. You and I will, you know, we'll do our own contract. We want you back and you're going to like it. And here I was like, oh my God, you know, I don't even have next month's rent. And so I went back on, and boy, was I glad I did. So it was, but I had a ball. Just
when you all finally decided to leave, or I don't know if the show let you go, was it a show decision or your own decision? And if it was your own, was it a tough decision to make to leave a steady paycheck?
For me, I was only going to do it for 2 years. Because I made a deal with Jerry that, I'll go make the money for 2 years. You get your career together, because he was an extraordinary photographer.
Mhm.
And I'll never forget that Thanksgiving. We were in Texas in my father's house. He's laying in bed. This is terrible. I'm telling this to the world. In my
Go
8th
ahead.
month, it was right before Thanksgiving. He says, "Are you going to sign the contract again?" I remember looking at him sleeping. I went, he failed in his promise. I got to sign another contract because I have to keep making money, because he didn't live up to the bargain. That was the beginning of the end of our relationship. But love him today. We still talk. But so I did 4 years, and I was really, really unhappy at the end, because I had then, by that time, gotten into the Actors Studio and was back to working on what I really wanted to do, which was theater and doing scenes and stuff like that. And I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do other things and spread my wings. So,
and you have since.
It wasn't.
And Terry, for you?
Well, I was married, and Andrew and I got married while I was on the show, and I was pregnant, and pregnant with my first daughter, and actually it was a precarious pregnancy, and I actually remember this. I was in bed, and basically the doctor said, "You have to stop working," and I went to Nick and I said, "Look, this is the deal." And he said, "Well," and it was in the middle of a very heavy duty storyline for me too. And he said, "Well, we can't really how about if we shoot all," so stupid. Now that I think about it. "How about if we'll make it easier for you, because we'll shoot all your scenes, for the week in one day." And I went, "Okay, that makes sense." Well, some of those scenes were roughhoused. I mean, I remember I got raped or something, or physically attacked
or something.
Or
something.
And I ended up, after I would do turned out the work days then could be from 7 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. And then I would indeed be in bed for the next several days because I had problems.
Well, one of the fans just wrote that April got pregnant, but she wasn't supposed to be able to have kids.
That's right. That's right. I trust the fans remember all of this.
Yeah, they remember.
That's right.
They really do.
And so I left right. Oh, no, I left. My daughter was due in October. I left in the beginning of, or mid-August, and she was born 2 weeks later. So she ultimately, I gave birth 6 weeks early to a 4-pound, 15-ounce baby girl. Mm-hmm. And so that's, that kind of coincided with my contract. I think I was on for about 4.5 years. But a year and a half later, I went on Another World and got pregnant while I was on that show, and that was my second baby. So I had my Edge of Night baby and my Another World baby.
Procter & Gamble was your baby time.
That's right. All I had to do was sign a contract, and I'll get pregnant. Yeah. But no, it was. I have to say that the Edge of Night experience was magical. Really magical. And I am so glad that Rosie and Franny and I have maintained this family.
This proves how magical here.
Well, I also will never, ever forget people like Joel Crothers. I have a vase that he gave me as a wedding gift. And every time I see that vase, I think of him. And
Tiffany?
No, it's not a Tiffany vase. It's a very 40s kind of. What's that period again? I can't remember. Anyway, it's a beautiful vase, and it just says Joel to me. And Tony Craig, who, I loved him to death, and I wanted to strangle him at other times, But and Maeve Maguire, and Jane Benson. I'm always in touch with Mava, and Jane Benson is my blood sister, and
Lois Kibbe.
Lois
Lois
Kibbe.
Kibbe.
Yeah,
Oh my God,
you
Lois.
know.
Lois.
A lot
The
of
Lord is my shepherd. The Lord is my shepherd.
fans were asking, because I know you were just talking a lot about the ladies. Do you keep in touch with any of the men from Edge, or
Well,
seen them?
Tony Craig moved, I think, back to Philadelphia, and I'm in touch with him around Christmas time. You know, his birthday's around Christmas too.
So many passed away, I have to say.
Forrest Compton just passed away.
Dixie Carter. Remember her
Dixie
singing
Carter.
Send in the Clowns at her house by her grand piano, and she had just met Hal Holbrook, and they were in love with each other. Oh God, the feeling between those two. It's fantastic.
So they met just around the time she was on Edge?
Yeah, he was in the room. I remember that.
Wow.
I guess somebody said that they met on a movie or something. I'm not really sure because, you know, Hal just passed recently, and I was up on that. I remember.
They were together a long time.
Yeah.
Well, so many of the men we lost in the AIDS epidemic. It was horrible. Within like a year or two, Irving Lee and Joel and Dennis Parker, and then of course later Larkin Malloy. I did rest in peace page in my book, and I ended up having to put like 12 pictures on there. It's just shocking how many we've lost.
Sharon, talk about the book, because the book is out in paperback.
So I wrote this book 20 years ago, between 2001 and 2002. And it took me about a year to write it. And I had been off the soaps for about 10 years, and was synthesizing everything that had happened since then, because once I left the soaps, I took off on a psychological and spiritual journey. And so, I started off the book autobiographical. Well, I was born in Indiana farm country and with 8 brothers and sisters, and went here and there to college, and then ran off to New York. Huge chapter on New York and all the wonders of living in New York for almost 20 years, and lots and lots of stories about the Edge. And then the book kind of started turning as I started exploring myself psychologically, so that all my stories became more about me slowly learning who I truly was. We were all achievers, and our identity came through what we did. I mean, most people do that, but I realized that at one point, after, I think it was when I had 3 kids, I'd always identified myself with what I did. What do you do? Oh, well, I do this. And then all of a sudden now I've got 3 kids, and what do? I'm cleaning dirty diapers and wiping butts and cooking and cleaning and scrubbing and up all night and not sleeping. And that certainly wasn't my identity. So I hit this crisis of who am I? And then that, just opened up all these floodgates. So I talk about that in the book, about the huge change of truly finding out who I am, meaning finding my soul. And then, so as I looked at the book recently, as I'm redoing it, I noticed that the first few chapters, I would have little quotes from other people starting the chapter. But as the time progressed in the book, now the openings is my poetry. And now, instead of, I always tell stories, but the stories had images and symbols, and my whole soul started opening up in this book. So I called it From the Raven to the Dove. And it's not negating raven bad, dove good, or anything. It's that the whole journey from the void to the light is what this book is really about. And so it's been 20 years, and I decided it needed an upgrade. So I've remembered so many more stories that I put in. I added 170 photos from our time in New York and from my family and everything. And I wrote this huge, long epilogue about what's happened to me in the 20 years, meaning I went back to nursing, and and so many spiritual trips that I went on, and just a lot of stuff. So I'm very proud of this book, and really happy to get it out there again. Thank you.
Yay!
It's
You're
on
welcome.
Amazon.
It's on
I always
Amazon,
thought
yeah.
that you were so smart, Rosie, because you said when you told me that you went and got your nurse's license, that you could always fall back on that. I thought, God, she's a smart person. I'm an idiot. All I know is fact. I can't fall back on anything.
Oh God, Franny, that's exactly what I thought. I thought she is so smart and you are such an idiot.
Well, I have a few more minutes with you. Frances, we spoke briefly about Guiding Light backstage. Do you remember anything about your time working there? You worked with Vincent. I believe it was Michael Wilding.
Vince Irizarry.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, I love Vince, and it was good. And I played Suzette, and I think I wore a lot of leather.
You were a music producer, if I recall. You were
Producer, yeah. I remember one rehearsal. We were in a room rehearsing. Rehearsals? Did we ever rehearse? I guess we did. And I said something about, we need to do. There needs to be a transformation in this scene. And he looked at me and went, "Transformation? What is that?" It was like a spiritual thing, because I was starting to be on my little spiritual trip too. But
Frances, Frances started the whole spiritual thing really, because in 1987 it was the harmonic convergence, and who ended up in like Time magazine with a picture of her on a hilltop holding a crystal to the sun? Like, was it Time magazine?
Yes.
I think she's going to get the crystal. She's going to get the crystal.
I just also wanted to say too, I was of course teasing when I commented, asserting what Frances has said. I think Frances has been the most courageous of the three of us.
Wow.
Yes. Frances is the true. Oh my!
Look at
she's
that.
The bohemian.
That isn't some small crystal. That is a real.
Yeah, no, that's the real deal. Frances
That's what
is
you
the
were.
bohemian.
I
She's
took
the leader of the pack.
Is that what you were holding in Time magazine?
Yeah, I took it to Woodstock. I wish I could find it. Maybe you can do the research, because it was a picture of me, and it just said a woman meditating, and I was sitting in front of my crystal, and it was that shot, and I've probably got it somewhere in my storage. That little picture.
It's a great shot, a fantastic
great shot, right? I was a woman, meditating at the harmonic convergence. Yeah, Woodstock.
Wow.
Yeah.
Terry, you were saying
that she's courageous.
Courageous.
Franny, I was saying that you are indeed the most courageous of the three of us. It took a lot to keep your nose to the grindstone in this, business, and to forge a career and keep it going. And you've done that, and I commend you.
And I want to say also about these women that we do our work. We do our psychological work. We've done it, and it's ongoing, isn't it, ladies? It never stops. But we do the work, and that's why we've stayed together for so long, because we can always unite in the work, and we support and help each other in it, because we're all doing it, and it's a wonderful thing.
I was going to say that earlier too, because you really are a testament to the power of women and friendship right here. I mean that's a long time. And you could see the love. I'm curious, because you all talk about theater playing such an important part of your lives. A favorite role that you've played? Frances, give me your favorite film role and your favorite theater role.
Well, I don't go that. I don't like go favorite, because there are aspects of all of our personalities, these characters that we play. But the last play I did right before COVID hit was The Lion in Winter, which talk about having to memorize lines. Oh my God. I was so freaked out. Everybody came knowing their lines. I was working with Gregory Harrison as the king, fabulous actor. Oh my God, on stage, he's amazing. And I was having trouble learning my lines. And I had to go to a hypnotist to get rid of the block. I was so scared because I hadn't done a part like that. And so, because it's a big ass part, right? Eleanor of Aquitaine. But that was to have achieved and overcome my fear of playing that role and having to stretch so much in so many directions. I was really that right now is my favorite role in theater.
Terry just did hers. Frances and I went to see her. Go on, Terry.
Yeah, I had the luxury of playing Kate in All My Sons in the theater that I'm a member of here in Venice. And it started out as a workshop and ran for almost a year.
Oh,
and
wow.
It was an absolutely amazing experience. I talk about living it. I probably lost 10 pounds doing the show. And it was emotionally draining. As satisfying as it was, it took everything out of me in a beautiful, beautiful way. I'm thrilled. If I never get to play another role like that, I'm grateful I had that opportunity. Once, we've been doing things on Zoom, but God, I can't wait until we can get back into the theater.
Oh,
yeah, our
couldn't
doors.
agree
My
more.
favorite role.
Our doors have been locked for over a year right now.
Yeah.
Crazy.
My favorite role was actually a musical. Actually, my two top favorite roles were musicals. And once we open doors, I want to take my one-woman show back on the road. That's what I'm going to do. But the musical, Jacques Brel is Alive, Well, and Living in Paris. I played the older woman. The songs they're theatrical pieces of their own. They're monologues, each and every song. They're just so brilliant. And that was my favorite. And then El Donza in Man of La Mancha was absolutely, oh my God, what fun. But
have you ever had the chance to do theater together?
Terry and I produced our own in New York.
Men with women.
Men with women.
We did 2 one-act plays.
WINMIN.
Yeah.
We did 2 one-act plays, and Terry and I did together, and we were damn good. We were good. That was a good little play. But we should do something together.
You'd have an audience for sure. Frances, you said about that role because of the lines were so daunting. Was it daunting to take on Lucille Ball?
It's interesting about that because about 10 years before I did the role in my loft, in my loft that I was in at the time, one of my acting teachers, Sandra Seacat, needed a space to have an acting class. And I said, let's use, because there's a studio, right? The living area, the dark room, the bathroom, and then the studio where all the filming and stuff happened. And so we did have a workshop there. And I came in with some headshots. What are those called? Contact sheets. That's right.
Yeah, contact sheets. Yeah,
so I had new headshots.
Yeah,
and I brought them in and had everybody in the class look at them. And there were a couple of pictures at the very end. It's like, okay, we got the headshot. Why don't you just dress up and do something different? And so I kind of threw my hair up and I put more lipstick on and stuff. And Desmond Child, who is a fabulous musician and record producer, said, you look a lot like Lucille Ball in these pictures. I went, really? Well, who doesn't know Lucy? So I started reading about her and I became really invested in who she was. And I remember saying to myself, someday I'm going to play that part. So it wasn't daunting. It was just that the production was not that good. It could have been a lot better, but yeah, I was ready for it. I was
But I
ready.
love that you said I'm gonna do it, and it happened.
Yeah, it's probably the only time in my life. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Wow, this has been so much fun.
Yeah. Thank you.
This is how the business works, though. Just quickly, like Frances was with Clint, and they were in New York, and she said, "Come on over." And I went up to where they were, and we had a lovely evening. And they were getting ready to do Unforgiven, and I had 3 kids by then, and I was talking about Larry Joshua, my husband, looking for work and whatever, and we were talking about everything, and we had a great time. And then we all left. And then a couple days later, Larry gets a call from his agent. "Clint wants to meet you at this restaurant. Just come meet him." That's the way he worked. Nothing said. Larry walked into a restaurant, sat down, had a cup of coffee, chit-chatted. The next thing we know, Larry's got he played 2 different parts in Unforgiven. And, those residual checks sustained us for a long time.
Well, yeah.
And that's how the business works.
Crazy. It really is. It's and look, it started back in the 1970s because of you 3.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's continued.
Really.
Yeah.
Yeah. This friendship's not, this is a
Oh,
life.
no.
Oh, remember we
no.
were going to go to Idlewild? Remember we were going to write our stories? We got to do it now.
Yes.
We got to do
We
that.
did go to Idlewild. We went to Idlewild.
Yeah, we went up into
Yeah.
the mountains at Idlewild. We rented a cabin.
I remember that, but we didn't write anything
No,
down.
we didn't. It's time.
What do you want to write?
We partied.
We want to write something for the 3 of us.
Yes.
Oh, you should. One of these fans probably could do it. They've been following you guys long enough to,
That's true. Well, listen, at this stage of the game, it takes a village to do anything. So among the 3 of us, we might be able to come up with one character.
Are you writers? Have you written anything?
I've been writing essays right now. That's what COVID and quarantine has had me burst with things that I just have to get on paper, and it was wonderfully creative, and it's kind of like sort of like a diary, but bigger than that. And when I start, I don't know where it's going to go, and so it's been very illuminating for me. Talk about the journey. The inward journey. So that's been really wonderful that way. My horoscope,
in a play.
as Rosie knows. Oh, that's right. But that's right, I did. But Rosie knows that my horoscope says that I'm going to be a writer.
Okay.
I remember that.
Well, and Rosie, I love her nickname, told me that you're both, Frances and you, Terry, are social activists. Can you just briefly before we go talk about some of the things that matter to,
Go ahead, Frances, you start.
Oh my God.
It's a long list.
Well, my activism started, when I was in Texas, and I remember going to Washington, D.C. for ERA thing so many years ago. Then the activism through the years. I'm still on the board of Screen Actors Guild, AFTRA now. Going into my 21st year, we have an election coming up. Hello, anybody out there who can vote for membership first, because we need to really revamp our union. Otherwise, it's going to go under. I went to Standing Rock in 2016 because I wanted to see for myself what was going on. I supported Bernie Sanders in his bid for the presidency. I supported Marianne Williamson in her 2 runs for office, different offices. and black. Then it snowballs, doesn't it? I met so many activists at Standing Rock, which opened me up to, then Black Lives Matter and what was going on at the border. I went down there with a group of friends to see for myself. I mean, that's why being on the ground is so good. And then you meet other people, and now it's all different. It's all happening online, because this summer I put 1 tank of gas in my car since March, because I just don't go anywhere. I'm being very, very careful. And it's enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
And of course, yeah.
What was the last? I didn't hear the last thing you said.
The election,
Oh, yeah.
just being active on social
Well,
media.
that had to happen. That had to happen.
Yeah.
That election had to, that change had to happen. We needed a change.
I work with the homeless, and I've done that for years and years. Always been involved with those in need. I mean, I remember when we were on Edge of Night, and Yai was part of this group called Audiences Inc. And she was a beautiful singer, and she got us involved, and we sang. And I remember that first Christmas, we went to the hospital singing, and for several years thereafter, I raised money at Christmas time and bought presents and bought my first Santa suit and had a doctor wear it and went to several hospitals and gave out presents to the kids in the hospitals. And then during the riots here, I took my kids in a wagon and went door to door collecting donations, and worked with an organization called One Voice, and we've adopted families every year and worked through the Head Start system. And then in Malibu, the last couple of years, I'm a co-founder of a nonprofit called Malibu CART, Community Assistance Resource Team, and where we help those in need in the community and the homeless. And I make meals several times a week and work very closely with.
Didn't you plant trees? Did you plant trees like all over Toluca Lake?
Oh yeah, I've planted hundreds of trees
on doors,
through Tree People. I became a Tree People supervisor, and I used to ride around my bike in Toluca Lake with my clippers in my back pocket and prune the trees that I had helped plant. So I'm busier in that regard, than I've ever been in my life. So I have always believed in giving back and doing my share. And it's very rewarding.
It's a great message to leave on today, really. It's such a pleasure talking to you three. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having us.
You're so welcome.
Yes.
Stay safe.
Thank you for everybody out there who might be listening.
They are. There's a lot of people.
We love you.
For loving us.
Is this going to be on Twitter or something? You going to post this on Twitter so we can?
It will be on YouTube. The link I sent you, texted you, will work.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, so you've got it. You can share that.
Thank you,
So
Alan.
good to see you, girl.
Miss you. Soon. We'll have a sleepover soon.
Stay safe.
Yes, a sleepover.
Slumber party. Bye. Bye, Sharon. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, for being here today. I will see you tomorrow on Friday. And don't forget to subscribe right below to my YouTube channel and set the notifications, turn the notifications on so you're reminded of all upcoming shows. Have a great evening, everybody. Bye.